All right, welcome. Let's dive straight into today's explainer. And honestly, by the end of this, you are going to be a certified network diagnostician. Today, we're figuring out how to test your real internet speed, and more importantly, how to do it correctly. Look, we've all been there, right? Are you tired of a video buffering right at the climax of a movie, or your online game lagging at the absolute worst possible moment? We have all experienced the intense frustration of a sudden lag spike. But what's really shocking is that despite millions of people dealing with this every single day, surprisingly few actually know how to identify the real culprit. Well, that stops today. I promise you that in the next few minutes, we're going to arm you with the exact tools and techniques you need to uncover the absolute truth behind your connection. We are going to master your home network and decode your true internet speed by the end of this explainer. So, here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the need for speed, move into speed versus bandwidth, prepping your network, choosing the right tool, decoding your results, and finally, wrap things up with some advanced diagnostics. Let's get right into it.
Section 1, the need for speed. Before we test a single thing, we really have to understand what it is we're actually trying to measure and why those raw numbers your ISP gives you can be so incredibly misleading. Take a look at this quote from a Reddit user talking about network complaints. They said, their ISP isn't ripping them off. They're just misinterpreting speed test results and not understanding how internet traffic works. And they hit the nail on the head. Your internet service provider only controls a few hops in a massive network chain. That means your connection is subject to a ton of variables way beyond just your basic subscription tier. You're almost never going to hit that maximum theoretical speed when connecting to a random server halfway across the globe.
Moving on to Section 2, speed versus bandwidth. People use these two terms interchangeably all the time, but they are entirely different things. Think of your network like a highway. Speed is basically how fast the cars are driving. That's your data transfer rate. Bandwidth, on the other hand, is the number of lanes available on that highway, which is your connection capacity. Even if the cars are driving super fast, a two-lane highway is going to create massive bottlenecks the second everyone in your house gets online to stream, game, and jump on video calls all at once. Sometimes you don't need faster cars, you just need a wider highway. So here's the absolutely crucial point. While download speeds dictate how fast you pull data, like downloading a massive update, your ping, or latency, dictates how responsive your connection actually feels. Latency is the reaction time of your connection, measured in milliseconds, for a packet of data to travel to a server and come right back. If you play online games, you already know latency is literally a life-or-death metric. And we definitely can't forget about jitter. Jitter measures the variation in your latency over time. Basically, it's the stability of your connection. If you've ever sounded like a robotic Dalek on a Zoom call or your voice gets all chopped up, high jitter is your prime suspect. You want this number as close to zero as humanly possible. All right, Section 3, prepping your network. Now that we know what we're looking for, we need to set up our digital crime scene properly. If you run a test on a 5-year-old smartphone connected to a weak Wi-Fi signal, you aren't testing your internet speed, you're just testing your bad Wi-Fi. To get a genuine baseline, you absolutely must follow this checklist. First, connect your device directly to your router using a wired Ethernet cable. This cuts out Wi-Fi interference completely. Second, close out all your background apps. We don't want hidden cloud backups stealing your bandwidth during the test. Third, disconnect extra devices like smart TVs or consoles. And finally, test it multiple times of the day to see how those peak evening hours are impacting your connection. Section 4, choosing the right tool. Okay, with our network prepped, it's time to pick our diagnostic tool. But not all speed tests are created equal. This table right here is basically your ultimate cheat sheet. Use Ookla's speed test for a standard baseline to measure your peak capacity. It's awesome for comparing speeds across regions. If you're trying to troubleshoot gaming lag, you want to use Cloudflare because they give you incredible granular detail on jitter and latency stability. Try fast.com from Netflix if you want to quickly check for buffer bloat by comparing loaded versus unloaded latency. And if you really want to get into hardcore auditable network research, MLab's NDT7 is the tool you want.
Section 5, decoding your results.
All right, so you've chosen your tool and run the test. But what do all these numbers actually mean for your daily life? You'll want to compare your results against these target benchmarks to see if your connection is genuinely healthy or if it's struggling. For smooth HD streaming, you're looking at 25 megabits per second or more. For 4K streaming, or if you have multiple users online, aim for 100 plus. Now, upload speeds are super critical for video calls. You want a solid 3 to 5 megabits per second upload to avoid freezing mid-sentence. For gaming, you want your ping firmly under 20 milliseconds. And again, that jitter needs to be hovering right around 0. And keep this specific number in mind, 100. If your ping creeps over 100 milliseconds, you are going to experience severe, highly noticeable lag. Honestly, it doesn't even matter if you have a massive gigabit download speed at that point. If your ping is over 100, web pages are going to hesitate and your games are going to stutter. Let's level up a bit. Section 6, Advanced Diagnostics. For the tech-savvy viewers hanging out with us, let's dig into an amazing archive research paper that explains exactly why two different testing tools can give you wildly different results on the exact same internet connection. Take a look at how Ookla's architecture compares to MLab's NDT7. Ookla is aggressive. It uses multiple TCP connections to simulate real browsing, meaning it artificially inflates its connections to find your absolute peak capacity. NDT7, however, uses a strict single-thread TCP connection. It doesn't inflate anything. Instead, it brutally exposes your network's absolute weakest link. They are measuring two completely different things. To put that into perspective, the real-world impact of this design difference is pretty staggering. Researchers discovered that on a 100 megabit link, when latency spikes above 200 milliseconds, Ookla aggressively opens up to 8 TCP connections to maintain a high reported speed, around 87 megabits per second. But NDT7, it plummets down to just 31 megabits per second. See, NDT7 accurately reflects the massive performance drop a single file download would actually experience under high latency, whereas Ookla kind of masks it by just opening more lanes on the highway. And what's crazy is this research even uncovered a bug in older NDT7 native clients. They found the tools were incorrectly using app info instead of TCP info, which caused upload speeds on slower connections, those under 10 megabits per second, to be massively overestimated, literally by up to 134%. It just goes to show that even the most trusted, hardcore diagnostic tools aren't totally flawless. Which brings us to our final section, troubleshooting and conclusion. Okay, so you've done the tests, analyzed all the data, and realized your network really is underperforming. What's the next step? Here's your action plan. First, compare your loaded versus unloaded latency to check for buffer bloat. Second, just restart your router to clear its memory cache. Seriously, you'd be surprised how often that alone fixes the issue. Third, upgrade any outdated Wi-Fi equipment. If you're running a 5-year-old router on a brand new gigabit plan, you are literally throwing money away. Follow these steps first to clear basic hardware bottlenecks. You should only call your ISP when you have a documented history of your wired speeds dropping significantly, like by half, below what you actually pay for. Now, a quick but absolutely crucial disclaimer before we wrap up. Remember that a speed test is just a snapshot in time. Your results are always going to vary based on your geographical location, Wi-Fi interference, the time of day, your specific hardware limitations, and your ISP's routing paths. Your actual day-to-day experience will fluctuate based on a ton of environmental and hardware factors, and if persistent issues keep happening, you might need professional tech support. So, I'll leave you with this one final provocative question. Are you really getting the speed you pay for, or just the speed your testing tool wants you to see? Now that you're armed with the truth about ping, jitter, and the difference between single and multi-threaded tests, go run your own diagnostics. Take back control of your digital highway. Thanks so much for tuning into this explainer, and happy testing.